Hello, Conrad and Lucy and Caleb too. Are y'all ready for another great Fantastic Four adventure? I hope so, because I've been waiting a long time to tell you this story. It's one of my very favorites. It's called It Started on Yancy Street. Well, what is Yancy Street? Yancy Street is a neighborhood in New York City where Ben Grimm grew up. Of course, that was before he became the mighty superhero thing. And so the gang on Yancy Street liked to make fun of the thing and pull pranks on him. And so the Fantastic Four come to Yancy Street to check out what's going on. But look in the background of this cover. Do you see this figure? Do you remember him? It's the Watcher, which tells us that this is going to be a cosmic adventure. It's going to start on Yancy Street, but it's going to end up in outer space on the moon. I'm so excited. I can't wait. Let's go. All right. Well, here are our superheroes walking down Yancy Street, and look at what all is going on. The torch says, "Look out, Ben, you're stepping on a wad of chewing gum." Thing says, "Now he tells me, drat those Yancy Streeters, blamed no good litter bugs." Sue says, "I wish you hadn't insisted on coming here, Ben, even if there has been an increase in crime here lately. I still think it's just a routine police matter." Heads up! This is ridiculous. The world's most famous fighting foursome being pelted by a head of lettuce. All right, well, let's keep going. Here's the thing. He's saying, "You miserable mugwumps, come on out and fight like the men you wish you were. I dare you. Stop hiding, you yellow-bellied Yancy Street yahoos." And look what happens next. They drop a trash can on top of the thing. They say, "Thing, you've got a big mouth." What a revolting development. All right, but here comes the torch. He says, "Nobody can do that to my pal Benjamin except me." "You, Torchy, here we are, hothead." They're calling out of the window. And as soon as he gets up there, somebody tosses a bucket of water on him. Torch says, "Just wait till yow! Here, it's about time you had a bath, kiddo." And so the water puts out the flame. Reed says, "Sue was right, Johnny. We can't fight this sort of thing. It's like trying to swat a fly with an atomic bomb." Johnny says, "This is some time for a lecture." And so Sue decides to turn invisible. She says, "I'll turn invisible and try to find, sneezing powder." And so someone squirts some sneezing powder out into the air. And he says, "The invisible girl must be here someplace, so let's spray the area like this." And so now they can hear her. Achoo! She decides to go ahead and turn visible. So Reed grabs her hand and says, "Gesundheit, let's go. The natives are too restless today." And here comes the thing. He says, "Nuts, I stubbed my little toe on the curb." And look, his foot is still stuck with that wad of chewing gum. He says, "This is a day that'll live in infamy." And Johnny says, "Boy, if Spider-Man ever learns about this, I'll never hear the end of it." Remember that Spider-Man and the Torch sometimes work together and sometimes fight against each other. All right, sheepishly reaching their Fantasticar, the frustrated foursome find, "Oh no, this is the living end. We got a parking ticket for overtime parking." Sue says, "What's going on, Ben?" And then Johnny says, "Let's get going before we're arrested for jaywalking." Reed says, it's lucky the battery isn't dead. Imagine if we had to call a tow truck. But in their haste, the colorful quartet fails to notice a small, electronically controlled flying object. What is this? Do you think the Yancy Street gang cooked up something like that? I don't think so. I think there's something else at work here. An object which follows at a safe distance, never losing sight of the fabulous fantastic car in its shimmering glare-proof view screen. Finally, as the FF come to a smooth landing atop the 35-story Baxter building, somebody says, anytime we begin to get too swell-headed, let's just think of Yancy Street. That'll cure us. Around and around the skyscraper headquarters flies the small, mysterious spy device, as though waiting to observe which room the FF will enter. I wonder if one of our old enemies could be behind the Yancy Street gang, goading them on. Say, that's a thought. Maybe there's more to it than just a neighborhood gang who hates us. So, Reed says, when we get inside, I'll study some old photos of our former foes. Maybe one will ring a bell. Sue says, I think we should just forget the whole silly incident. Ben says, forget the Yancy Street gang? That's like forgetting Pearl Harbor. And Johnny thinks, maybe the Avengers put them up to it for kicks. And so now they're sitting around their living room, and the thing says, if only they were nice, ordinary, everyday supervillains, we could all use our power and clobber them. But you can't take a neighborhood apart just to find some nut who tosses a mud pie at you. And look, he's picking the gum out of his feet. And Sue says, let's look at the bright side. They're better than fighting the Hulk. And then Sue thinks, I thought I saw something fly past the window. Must have been my imagination. Johnny says, boy, the way you've been studying those pictures, Reed, you probably got Jane Mansfield there too. Reed says, no such luck, Johnny. There's not a beauty in the bunch. So Johnny says, any leads yet, Reed? Not really. It could be just about anybody who's behind the Yancy Street gang. Look at all these pictures of past foes. Here's the Mole Man, the Super Skrull, the Submariner, the Red Ghost and his apes. Remember them? Yeah, keep thinking about them for a while. And then Reed picks up a picture of the Puppet Master. You remember the Puppet Master? He was a character in the story of the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, okay? Reed says, wait a minute, what about him, Ben? Do you think the Puppet Master might have them under his control? Remember, the Puppet Master can mind control other people. Thing says, I don't want to even look at him. Every time I remind myself that a creep like him is Alicia's stepfather, it burns me up. Do you remember Alicia, who is Ben's girlfriend? Well, the Puppet Master is her stepfather. Ben says, in fact, I've been meaning to tell you something for weeks. I'm fixing to bust up with Alicia. It ain't fair for a slob like me to waste that doll's time. Johnny says, you're nuts, Benjamin. She's in love with you, even if you're too dumb to see it. Ben gets mad and he reaches out and he breaks a statue that's sitting nearby. He says, don't give me that, kid. She's in love with what she thinks I am. What happens if she ever gets her eyesight back? I ain't exactly Prince Charming. Reed says, quiet, Ben. She just came in. Alicia says, Ben, are you here? I have to talk to you. Ben says, sure, baby. What is it? What's wrong? She says, I've decided we mustn't see each other anymore, Ben dear. I came to say goodbye. Ben says, "Ha, I knew it. I was right all the time. You finally realized I ain't good enough for you. And it's true, honey. I don't blame you." Sue says, "I can't believe it. Those two mean the whole world to each other." Alicia says, "No, Ben. No, my darling. It is I who am not good enough for you. You're so wonderful. Any girl would be proud to have your love. I can't let you waste your life with me just out of pity." Ben realizes, "You think I see you out of pity?" And he reaches out and he grabs her and he holds her close. He says, "Don't ever say that again. Here, you're the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Now I realize that it's you and me, baby, and that's the way it'll always be. Oh, Ben, Ben." And now they embrace. Johnny says, "Phew, I don't know how the big lug does it, but he's got a better line than Rock Hudson." Sue says, "I wish a certain scientific genius would learn a little of Bashful Benjamin's technique in the sweet talk department." Well, she's talking about Reed, and Reed is kind of embarrassed. He says, "I think it's time we turn to other matters now." Johnny knows what's going on. He says, "Poor Reed. He gets embarrassed when the Moon June bit is thrown at him. Well, maybe I can get him off the hook. Hey, look, a bunch of fan mail that's waiting for us. Let's start opening it." Meantime, outside the window, the small spy device still hovers unnoticed. And so Ben sits down and he looks at the mail, and then he says, "How about that? A package all gift wrapped and addressed to B. Grimm, the FF's original lover boy." Johnny says, "With your luck, big buddy, it'll probably be a bottle of hair tonic." Because the thing doesn't have any hair. He doesn't need any tonic. He's kind of like Papa, right? At that precise instant, a built-in relay atop the spy device is suddenly activated, and then as the strange object hovers a safe distance from the window, a soft click is heard. And at that same split second, the package in Ben Grimm's hand is set off by the spy machine outside, and it emits a blinding cloud of thick white vapor. Oh no! It's a blasted, miserable, sneaky booby trap. Then, as though its mission is finally complete, the tiny electronic object speeds away from the Baxter building on a previously determined course. Look, Ben, there's a note inside. Quick, read it. It's from the Yancy Streeters again. Those rat finks say we're too chicken to come back there tonight at the stroke of midnight. Reed says, "I'm more convinced than ever that someone else is behind this. It took a lot of scientific know-how to arrange for that package to break open at the exact instant you grasped it." Ben says, "Know-how, schmo-how. Just let me at 'em. I'll mow 'em down. I'll pulverize 'em. I'll demolish 'em." And so in his anger, he shows how he's going to demolish the Yancy Streeters by breaking this table. Oh my, turns it into splinters. And Reed says, "You'll also replace that antique table of ours, Mr. Benjamin J. Grimm." Johnny says, "Oh well, here we go again." So, later, at the stroke of midnight, Reed says, "Careful, Ben. I still have a feeling we're up against more than just a simple, friendly challenge." See, there they are on Yancy Street. Ben says, "Don't worry about me, mister. Save your sympathy for them." "Well," Ben says, "looky here. One of them finally crawled out of his hole long enough for me to see him. And this is really my lucky day. He's big enough so that I won't have to pull my punch too much. Look, do you see this shadowy figure? He does look very large and muscular and powerful. Is this a Yancy Streeter? Let's find out. Here they come in the dark. They're lunging at each other. Ben says, "That's it, Buttercup. Come and get it. It's clobbering time." Whoomp! But who does the clobbering? Thing says, "I was robbed. He's as strong as I am." Look, it's not a Yancy Streeter. It's a big, powerful gorilla. That's what Reed says. "Stay back, Ben. That's no Yancy Streeter. It's a full-grown gorilla." Reed says, "I'll try to hold him till we can figure out where he came from." And so Mr. Fantastic wraps his body around the great gorilla. Thing says, "For the love of Pete, if that's a Yancy Streeter, no wonder they never showed themselves before." And then Sue says, "Boys, look out, here's another one, an orangutan. Wait, what's he doing? There's some sort of sparks coming out of his hand, like a powerful magnetic ray being hurled at a target. Oh no, are y'all beginning to remember something?" His magnetic power gathers metallic objects, and a second later, the startled Sue realizes what the orangutan's target is. She thinks, that old car from the junkyard across the street, he's ripping it apart magnetically, hurling the pieces toward us. Sue's about to get hurt. But suddenly a fighting mad bundle of flaming fury streaks across the scene, melting the metal sections before they can do any harm. Johnny says, "Flame on!" and he's the Human Torch. But before the Human Torch can make another move, a third anthropoid leaps to the attack. A fiercely gibbering baboon snaps an asbestos hood over the teenager's head. And Johnny realizes, I have enough air to breathe due to the small vents in this thing, but not enough to keep my flame on. And then with the torch out of action, the amazing baboon whirls around to face the ponderous figure who is charging towards it. It's the Thing. He says, "This whole crummy neighborhood ought to be condemned. It's crawling with monkeys. Hey, watch out with that pop gun. My Blue Cross ain't all paid up yet." And so the baboon shoots out a bullet or a ray gun or something. It's powerful, isn't it? But the Thing isn't worried. He just rips up some sidewalk. He says, "I'll rip up a hunk of sidewalk and use it as a shield for a while. It must be bullets. It's going rat-a-tat-tat." And then the Thing says, "Ha, your gun's empty. Okay, Bright Eyes, let's see if we can send you back to your organ grinder now." But look at this. The orangutan just twirls around and he turns himself into a pile of bricks. The Thing says, "Jumping jellyfish." Now what's he doing? He's turning himself into a pile of bricks. But which one is the real baboon? So the Thing is pouring through the bricks. He says, "I feel like I'm acting in a ding-blasted TV quiz show." But now Mr. Fantastic is thinking as the gorilla is stretching him out. The Reed thinks, "I should have guessed who our real enemy is. It's all so clear now. But I don't know how much longer I can keep this rampaging gorilla out of action." He's hooking part of my elastic body on the edge of that passing truck. Not only is his strength greater than normal, but his intelligence is too. And so, as the truck speeds on, stretches Mr. Fantastic beyond his capability. He thinks, "I can't hang on much longer. The strain is too great. I can't." And so he releases the gorilla. He says, "All right, fella, you win the first round, but it's only the beginning." Sue says, "Reed, are you hurt?" "No, stay back, honey. We're not out of the woods yet. He's attacking you again, says Sue. Perhaps I can hold him off with my invisible force field. Well, I think so. It's about time. But the invisible girl's force field protects them from the giant gorilla. And Reed says, he's not the main enemy, Sue. Don't you recognize these three creatures? Don't you remember their master? Do you remember their master? Do you remember the three super apes? And the red ghost. Here he is. And he says, in case she doesn't remember, Richards, allow me to reintroduce myself, the red ghost at your service. When you defeated me on the moon months ago, I swore I'd return and get my revenge. And now the time has come. Do y'all remember that story? I do. I remember how the red ghost and the three apes were flying through space, and they absorbed cosmic rays just like the Fantastic Four. And so they all ended up with great powers. You've already seen the apes, the super strong gorilla, the orangutan with the power of magnetism, and the baboon who can turn himself into any object. And the red ghost can turn himself into an immaterial being that can pass through any object, or who can withstand any attack because nothing can touch him. Okay, let's keep going. So, the red ghost says, you prevented me from claiming the moon for my communist masters, and you must pay for that. Now surrender, or I'll fire into this sack, finishing off the torch. Sue says, no, no, you mustn't, don't, because remember, Johnny is Sue's brother. And the thing says, easy, Susie gal, we ain't gonna let anyone hurt the kid. Reed says, put your weapon away, we surrender. Thing says, now open that sack and let the torch out, and if he's hurt, all bets are off. Sue realizes then it wasn't the Yancy Street gang, Reed. It was the red ghost. He planned this whole thing to trap us. Reed says, I'm afraid so, hon. And now we've got to see this through to the end. Then seconds later, after the red ghost has freed the torch, the sinister genius nods to his orangutan. And look, the orangutan sends out his magnetic rays. Red Ghost says, you may remember how my three apes and I were affected by cosmic rays on our trip to the moon, even as you once were. We all developed certain powers, enabling us to challenge your superiority. Red Ghost says, summon our ship magnetically, my pet. And so, at a gesture from the uncanny orangutan, a hovering spaceship slowly descends. Look at the giant magnet on top of the spaceship. That's how the orangutan is controlling it. And there in the early morning gloom of Yancy Street, unseen by any in the silent, sleeping neighborhood, the Fantastic Four enter the Red Ghost's moon ship. The Red Ghost says, step aboard, all of you. We are about to begin our journey, a journey from which you shall never return. Do you think that's so? Do you think they'll go to the moon and never come back? Let's watch and see. Red Ghost says, lest you get any rash notions, Richards, let me warn you that this ship works on magnetic power and be controlled only by my orangutan. It is impossible for you or anyone to change our destination. The thing says, boy, I half expect Bela Lugosi to pop out from behind one of these gizmos. Bela Lugosi was a famous actor that played in a lot of horror pictures back in the day. So, the Red Ghost says, very well, my beauty, everything is set. Proceed according to my plan. Our next stop will be the moon. Reed says, now I'm warning you, fella, any surrendering we did applied to our position on Earth. Once we reach the moon, it's every man for himself. With those words still ringing in their ears, the oddly assorted occupants of the unique moonship are hurled back by the force of the blast-off, and then, after a silent, breathtaking journey, 2 days later, look, here's the spaceship, and behind it, the craters of the moon with the Earth in the distance. The Red Ghost says, "We have reached our destination, Richards. Now you shall see how empty your threat was, how powerless you really are." And so, we take a pause in our story while the Fantastic Four and the Red Ghost and his apes are approaching the moon. Are the Fantastic Four powerless? Are they defeated? Will they return from the moon and go back to the Earth? Well, we'll find out the answers to these stories in the next part of our story that all started on Yancy Street. I can't wait. How about you?